Welcome friends to building the Alpha Dory. Today I'm hoping to get the bandsaw back up and running. Since the last video I took it apart and went over to a local industrial supply center and purchased a couple new bandsaw blades because I got the feeling that the blade I had in it was getting dull. Okay, so here's where I'm at with the bandsaw sort of tune-up, I guess. I got this bearing, guide bearing, loosened up and positioned in the proper spot for the new blade. This is the old blade that I still need to take out. I also took off the bottom guide bearing that's under the table here, and I don't know what was up with it, but it was like really loose, and it's in the mounting, and it looked like it probably wasn't bearing on the blade, so maybe that's part of why the blade was wandering as much as it was. But also, I don't remember the last time I changed this blade. It was probably right before I started building Centennial. So that means the blade is probably about 4 years old, and I suppose it could be even a little bit older. It could be 5 years old. I could have put it in when I started building Bill's boat. So either way, it's probably... The blade's not in bad shape. I'm definitely not going to throw it out, but blades are only like 20 bucks, so I figured I'd pick up a couple new blades. One blade that I bought is pretty much, actually now that I look at it, it's not the exact replacement, because the new blade I got has bigger teeth set further apart, I think. Let's see, well, here's the two new blades anyway. Yeah, these teeth are definitely further apart, but it's the same size blade as far as the depth. Fewer teeth, so yeah, I don't know if that'll really matter. It probably won't notice much of a difference. But the skinny blade allows you to cut curves pretty okay. And then I got a wider blade for, like the straighter cuts that I'm making, like on the stem. The reason I decided to get a new blade was because this blade was wandering so much side to side, cutting that stem out. And I actually didn't finish cutting the stem. It's still right here. I got 2/3 of it cut. And you can see if you look along it, the blade was just like I was chasing the blade like crazy, side to side. So this blade is quite a bit deeper. It's a 1/2 inch depth, thickness to the width of the blade. So that should run quite a bit straighter just by the fact that the blade itself, once it enters the cut, it'll keep it going. It'll tend to sort of track in the cut and not wander to one side or the other. But the flip side is, because it's got that depth to it, it's not good for cutting tight corners, which is kind of why I've got the bandsaw in the shop, actually, is to cut curves, fairly tight curves, because you can cut a, like the stem is probably the least curved thing that I'm going to cut. Like with the frames, I wouldn't have wanted a saw that couldn't cut any tighter than it did, because, I was, putting a little bit of pressure on it to get it to follow the line. pretty much at the extent of the curvature that it can cut. So the first thing to do is see if I can get this bearing in. And then there's little side bearing surfaces that are adjusted with these screws here. And these little, there are these little bits of it, looks like probably copper. And the blade runs, these guide the blade side to side to keep it from twisting, or at least they're supposed to. But you can see how that's been ground, worn down by years of the blade rubbing up against it, so it's no longer a smooth square surface to guide the blade. It's just a sort of chewed up rounded surface which won't do much blade guiding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate these so that the part that's chewed up is towards the back of the blade, and the part that's tight will be towards the front of the blade, so it'll hold it tighter like this. And I might even put this on the grinding wheel and square it up before I put it back in. So I'll push the other one out now. There it goes. So here's the other. These are the two bearing pieces. Yeah, they're all kind of cut up on both sides. It looks like they've probably been taken out and flipped over a couple times. Alright, so I've got these parallel pliers. And I'll just put the guide piece that I want to square up in there. And then I've got this electric motor here, which is hooked pretty securely to the pillow block, to the shaft that runs in these pillow blocks. And if I wanted to, I could even use a belt drive on this thing, but at the moment it's just this direct drive. So that should do the trick. I should probably put a little bit of oil in it just before we start, just to make sure those oil caps are topped off on the bearings. Yeah, this one back here too. Alright, should be good to go. Now we'll see if we can get it plugged in. This is unplugged. There we go. Pretty close. That looks good. for the next one. That looks pretty good now. Yeah, I can show you what it... So this is the other side, you can see. There it goes. You can see how rough it was. Okay, so back at the saw, and I can go ahead and install the side bearings that we just cleaned up. And you may notice that yeah, they slide in there pretty perfect at the moment. Okay, great. So that's always nice when something works out that well. There goes the other one. And I'll kind of peek in there and get them to line up pretty close, and then I'll tighten those up once I get the blade in, just to you know, I'll be able to judge the width of the blade. Now the other area, this thing has to go in under here, so it's got to get up in maybe I'll grab a light. So I can see up in there. Yeah, that's a bit better. So yeah, here's the bottom guides. Actually, looks like there's some side guides in here too. See if I can. Alright, those are loose. Alright, looks like I should probably almost got it. Alright, so I got that one out. I was a little bit worried that I was going to drop it. And there's a ton of sawdust around here. So, oh, there goes that one. Alright, so I got both of those guide chunks out. Actually, this one here looks like it's brand new. Never been used to guide. This end is brand new also. I think I'll just spin these around and use the new side. And they should be ready to go. These things just slide in place, and then there's two little set screws that hold them. Okay, so I can see them, they're in there. I just gotta remember to tighten up the set screws when it's time to start up the saw. Final piece to put in is the wheel here. And this is what the saw hits when pressure pushes the saw back. The back edge of the blade runs across this wheel, and that's what keeps it from chewing into the machine or pushing the saw blade off of the drive wheel on the idler pulley up top. So I'll slide this into here. So that's two pieces here. I'll show you. It's two pieces. See, it's the sleeve that gets locked into the machine by a set screw, and then the wheel just floats in the sleeve. There's a little bearing at the back edge of the sleeve that the shaft of the wheel rides on. But it's just the saw blade itself in the machine that keeps these wheels from falling out. So what I think I'll do is I'll try the wide blade, because I still have a bit more to cut on the stem, and we'll see how that goes. And then I can always swap it out for the thinner blade if need be. So the trick is to open the blade without getting cut by it. This can be dangerous with bigger blades. This one's so small I can pretty much just manhandle it, but you can imagine with a big inch wide blade it would really want to spring out, and then some of those blades, like a bandsaw mill, you gotta get out of the way when those things pop open. Alright, so we'll take out the old blade that I think is a little bit dull. And it's also got a kink in it where I was cutting a piece of wood and it bound up. Actually, it doesn't look that bad. Yeah, here it is right here. See that little wiggle? Anyway, the blade's kinked and it kind of thumps, you know, it kind of wiggles as it goes through the around the wheels on the saw. So it still cuts fine, but all right, now we'll see if